Welcome, welcome, welcome to the live. What if everything that you were taught about success, career, retirement, even family was only part of the story? What if it was only a part of the story? Everything you were taught about success, career, family, retirement, everything you were taught was only a half truth. Today, we're joined by a remarkable family who walked away from the predictable box life of checking the boxes, right? The predictable box checking, that path in the US, and chose something far more powerful freedom, purpose, and generational alignment. They didn't just relocate, they reimagined what life could look like for them, and I'm going to introduce you shortly to the Bradley family, also known as Awaken with Mark, over on YouTube and Instagram. I'm gonna welcome them to this powerful conversation about living boldly, building abroad, and doing it together. All right, how does that sound? So, how's my sound, everyone, over on YouTube and Instagram? Type a one in the chat if you can hear me. This is gonna be a really thrilling conversation and live. I want to make sure y'all can hear me. I see you guys over there. Hello, LaDonna. All right, type a one in the chat. Okay, perfect. You can hear me. So let me take the time to introduce myself. If you're new to the stream, welcome. Welcome to everyone. Building abroad globally with courage, not with fear. My name is Ashley on this feed, Ashley in Africa, across YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I help entrepreneurs and investors diversify their real estate and financial investments on the continent in multiple countries, strategically, legally, and with tax and estate planning efficiencies most people don't even know exist. Okay, we help people move the way smart money does abroad because no longer can we afford to be focused and committed to one place. The world is set up differently and we have to take action on that. Okay, so great. Y'all can see me over on Instagram and over on YouTube, and you can hear me loudly. So if this type of content resonates with you, like this video, share this video with someone that's going to find value in it. And if you're following and you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe for us. That would be amazing. We'd love to have you a part of the family. And as I mentioned, I want to introduce you to this really powerful family, the Bradleys, and they are also known as Awaken with Mark over on YouTube. Welcome, family.
Hey, hello,
Hello.
hello. Hello. Nice to see you
Hello.
again.
Good to see you guys. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
You're
It's
welcome.
good to be here.
Thank you for having us.
It's so good to see y'all again. I ran into the Bradleys at the Box in Stone Town, Zanzibar, a couple weeks ago. It was so good to see them. It was a surprise for both of us, but it was really
Yeah.
great to see them again. Meet Mr. Bradley for the first time in person.
That's right.
And
Yeah, it was great to meet you two for the first time. Yeah.
so it was great. And this is your second year coming and speaking with us in the audience at the Travel Move Do Business online conference for Tanzania. And we're just going to give you all in the audience a sneak peek of what we're going to be sharing and get you introduced to the family, the Bradley family, Awaken with Mark. Be sure to subscribe to their channel. Follow them on Instagram. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of value out of this conversation. So let's jump in. Let's start from the beginning if we can. What was the moment you knew it was time to leave the US behind and explore something different?
Well, it was around 2021, and we were in Los Angeles at the time. We had moved from Maryland, and life was going good. We were enjoying Southern California. Um, wow. Joe Biden was the president at the time, he was doing an announcement, and it was that all federal employees, which included myself, and contractors, or for that matter, anyone doing business with the federal government, needed and would be required to take the jab. And I was looking at that, and my mouth fell open. I turned and looked at my wife, Marlene, and I said, oh, that's it, we're out of here. And so that was late summer in 2021, and by the time we hit December 11th, somewhere around there of the same year, we were on the continent of Africa.
Yeah.
Well, you make it sound like so easy. But you know, I mean, it boils down to a decision, right? You made a decision that this was how you wanted your life to look, or this is how you no longer wanted your life to look. And you made that decision. Why Zanzibar, Tanzania? So for those that don't know, the Bradleys currently live in Zanzibar, Tanzania. So out of all of the places, because you're a very well-traveled family, right? You're a well-traveled family. You've been all over the world. Why did you choose Zanzibar? But then why Africa?
Well, we believe that we wanted to see more of our own people. From a biblical point of view, we felt that that was the direction we were going to go. Also, we originally went to Rwanda first, but we had actually looked at Zanzibar because I like the ocean. Being originally from Illinois, seeing the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, living in the Washington, D.C. area was great. Living in Los Angeles, 10 minutes from the Pacific Ocean was great. So I'm an ocean person, right? And they like the ocean also, right?
Yes.
So that was one of the things that I got their agreement on, that we would go and do. You are right. We had seen a few places, from Japan to Bermuda to, I don't know, different places. Mexico, right?
Puerto Rico.
Yeah. And other places through father and son trips, and also family outings. I believe that when you said it takes just make the decision, that's it. And so thinking about the continent, again, just think, when I walk into a store, I'm not looking for the urban section.
Right.
Think about that for a minute. If you're at Walgreens, CVS, or whatever drugstore where you got to go find your products in the urban section. So we don't have that issue. People have this negative thought process about the continent fed to them from the news media. Well, we turned off the news media. We'll go through that later on. But and we decided, well, wait a minute here. We don't believe that. And so there's just a safer feeling. And it did come true when we landed in Rwanda. And so that felt good. It felt good to be there. It was a nice soft landing for us. And then eventually properties came our way in terms of Zanzibar.
Okay, awesome. And so with Zanzibar, what am I back? Okay.
Yeah, we're back.
You know, you gotta turn on this do not disturb. Okay, wait, what's happening? Let me just make sure. I'm gonna ask a question and then I'll come back. So what for you, Mr. and Mrs. Bradley, you both had very long, successful careers, and you know, what were some of the myths you had to unlearn about retirement and settling down, especially when you decided to choose Zanzibar, Tanzania?
Okay. Want me to start off?
Yeah.
a little bit? Okay. So I've got to cheat on your question a little bit here. And honestly, I don't think there were myths that I had mentally. And here's why. Because I was the kind of person, you know how you have some people when they're working, they don't take vacations and they save up all their vacation time. I'm not one of those people. I felt like life is going on and I'm going to take a vacation. In fact, some people really taught me that. I used to work for IBM for over 10 years as an account systems engineer. And I had an office mate in Bethesda, Maryland, and Lucille, bless her heart, rest in peace, she would say to me that you need to take mental health days. You need to take care of yourself. There's only one of you. And so I developed that mentality. IT, or as we called it in those days, data processing, really wasn't my thing. So my retirement actually started when I was a young man, and I quit data processing or IT and shifted into what you would call facilitation, training, doing coaching, and things like that. So in other words, I took a cut and pay from private industry and watched my salary drop significantly, but I was happier. And so when you start doing what you love, they say you never work a day in your life. So it almost felt like my retirement goes back to 1991 or something like that, when I had left IBM. And I started actually doing total training, doing total facilitation, doing team building and things like that, which if you look at our videos, that's kind of the hallmark of our family. And the things Marlene, she's an educator also, those kinds of things were enhanced. So there was a slow progressive move toward that. So 20 years later, I'm doing what I want to do. And I also made tough decisions about where I want to do it. I'm tired of the East Coast. I want to do it on the West Coast. Put in a request, transfer to the West Coast. Boom, I'm making more money because it's a higher cost of living in Los Angeles. So I guess that's the start of my answer to the question.
Yeah, I didn't have any myths. I think the thing that I did was, as a child, I've traveled and I've always loved to travel. So as I'm looking through my life of wanting to get married, have children, and getting to a point where I decided to homeschool the children, we did a lot of travel, be it on paper and physically. And I wasn't thinking of, oh, I'm going to retire when I'm 70. I wasn't one of those people, I'm going to just work and work and work and then just retire. You know, I'm never thinking the government's going to take care of me. So I'm thinking I'm going to do what I want to do. I did the homeschooling, I enjoyed that. Then when I stopped doing that, I said, well, this is the rest of my life. I'm going to do what I want to do now. And so I didn't like buy into, like I said, thinking that they're going to take care of me. I've got to do for me. You know, I've got to plan for what I'm going to do. So I guess that's the aspect of whatever people have said about that. Because people will be alive to do all these things. So
that's so true. And we have that in common. And I'm going to come back to you, Mr. and Mrs. Bradley, but I want to talk a little bit to Josiah and Daniel, because you guys aren't retired. You are there, you're working, you're building something. So for you both, how did you feel about the decision to say, okay, we're going to, we're going to retire abroad. You guys want to come with us? We're going to Africa. What do you think about that? Like, what was your initial reaction? And what was the decision that said, okay, all right, we're game, we're coming?
Yeah, to start, we'd kind of been of like mind to move abroad as well and see other options. I think Dad said earlier, like we went to Mexico. Dad and he and Daniel went to Japan. We've taken family trips with cousins to like the Bahamas. So we've been blessed to be relatively world traveled. learned Spanish in high school and, just been exposed to different cultures through vacation life. We were privileged in that area and took advantage of the opportunities we had. And so we've been thinking for a little while after moving to LA that we wanted to do something different. I also was affected working in Hollywood by that administration, making that requirement for the jab that, I didn't feel comfortable with. And so those things contributed to like, no, I'm ready to also move abroad. If we four can do this, then let's do it together. Let's put our heads together. And we've been doing that. We'd always had well-traveled background, personal development background, and an adventurous spirit. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, so I echo many of the things Josiah has said. For me, growing up in my early teens, I was blessed to have friends worldwide in like the UK and Australia. We would play like video games and stuff online. So I had a more open mind to life outside of the United States. And like they said, we traveled a lot. I was blessed to do that from a young age, like the Bahamas or Japan when I was older with dad. And so there wasn't this big barrier for me in terms of, wow, like this is possible. Like they said, there were many things going on during that time with Joe Biden, and I wasn't particularly happy with how things went with George Floyd and being unalive, and just the political landscape, just certain things, and me realizing like there are other opportunities, there are other doors that can. There's, like I said before, there's more Earth than the United States, and so like we've said, like I did want to see more people who look like me. I know there's like the Caribbean, there's other different places to see that, but I did have that curiosity in me to see the continent, to come to Africa and explore the countries. So
yeah, I told you guys that I found when we were packing in 2021 to move, I found in a journal 5 years prior, I had written visit Africa at the very least. And so then 5 years when it came to 2021 or so, we were packing up to actually move to an African nation. And I thought that was wild. So it had always been in my heart as well, even down to writing it, to at least go out and visit. I just didn't know at the time I'd be signing up to move to an African nation, and now here we are. How about that?
Look at that. Visualization, manifestation, alignment, all of the things. And so it wasn't this current presidential regime, right? This was far before then. How many of you all in the chat can relate to having similar sentiments that the Bradley families had? I also had those sentiments. Like, oh no, I'm not putting this foreign thing that isn't properly tested, and I'm not gonna fall for the fact that I won't be able to live my life if I don't take this action. How many of you all felt that way in the chat, and you thought, and many of you, maybe even if you had to, you felt like you had to make those choices. That pressure didn't feel good for anyone, regardless of if you decided or didn't decide. It didn't feel good. And I can relate to you all, like the entire season around that time, being locked into the country, being told I couldn't go to certain places. That lack of freedom made me realize how valuable freedom was. And I was on a journey to seek out that freedom relentlessly. However, I had to do that because I knew if this is what it could look like now, there's no telling what this could look like in the future. And I think maybe some of us kind of think, oh, that could never happen again. But, how many of you all feel like that was the test, right? It was a test of maybe potential changes and things that are on the way, right? So
Yeah.
Thank you so much to 5 Point Star. Thank you. I appreciate your super chat. Thank you so much. It's so generous. T. Johnson says, Shalom, family. Welcome to the Awaken with Mark family. Welcome to the platform. Helvi says, hello. Wonderful. And April has some comments as well. She talks about being a federal court reporter. And so she's in alignment with what we're sharing. And so this is not about, necessarily escaping, but doing what feels good. What feels good, what feels better, being where you're treated better, where you can feel better, all of those things. And so for Josiah and Daniel, how has your experience living in Zanzibar, Tanzania, how has it shaped your creativity and your career choices? And how has it redefined your idea of success? So 3 questions in one.
Right. You want to go? You want me to go?
I can go. Yeah. So for me, how has it reshaped my creativity? It's really, put my creativity at the forefront because working in the United States, everything is very, or at least where I worked in retail at the time, was very systematic in terms of like almost like a conveyor belt, kind of like you go, you do this, and what do we say? We clock in. It's very servitude, not my ideal of servitude. So the creativity, I feel like I'm flowing into the career section already, but like that creative aspect, like it felt very boxed in the States, and so coming here really opened my mind to different ways of how people solve problems and just like the social aspects. Like, I hope I'm answering your question correctly, but it kind of shattered this like glass box in terms of, oh, there's so much more. I mean, like people are creative in the States, but there's just a more sense of freedom and ownership to my creativity. As for the, or did you want to go, or are you going to cover that?
No, you can cover all of them, and then I'll go.
As for the career section, that was, wow, that was a huge shift. With us doing like the YouTube channel, I'd always had kind of an eye for YouTube. Growing up, I wanted to like do different videos and share creative thoughts on it. And our brother Matthew would do YouTube as well to like creatively express himself. And so that had always kind of been on my heart, just to see what could happen with that. But again, when you're in the States, there's kind of this carved out path for you already from people, this pressure that I'm thankful I didn't have weighed on me from my parents. But you have friends, you have maybe you go over to your friend's house, you have your coworkers and people who kind of like, oh, you're definitely going down this path, right? Like you're definitely going to college. Like I love education, but in terms of how certain things are systematically planned, it's like these walls or these they're not like guidelines, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. The career path is already paved out for you, per se, and they're like, yeah, you're coming with us, right? So that really shifted moving here in terms of relying on my creative gifts and with the family on the YouTube channel. And then lastly, you said our definition of success. Wow, that's an excellent question. It's really changed for me in terms of instead of focusing on the end goal and really taking my time through the journey, especially with them when it comes to my family, when it comes to success. especially with how things may be done here. It doesn't always look like how I thought it would look. And it's kind of refreshing to see how uh, how different it is. I don't know exactly how to put it, but it's been great. It's changed a lot, and I'm thankful to slow down and accept the journey.
Yeah, for me with those questions, definitely at my age, I'm in my mid 30s and feeling more at home, still being at home, has really propelled me because now I've got like my name on this property and there's like no mortgage. um, Daniel and our other two brothers have our names on properties here on a tropical island. Obviously, the YouTube and having kind of like our own family production studio, kind of like the Wayans, so to speak. You remember the Wayans family, of course, Black Family Hollywood. And even, in fact, even with that, there's that kind of family compound, family business air that my dad has that actually a lot, even the Wayans and other people have of like, we weren't kicked out at 18, obviously. Our parents are like, no, I mean, you got a plan. Can we help you or anything? Leave whatever age you want. And I went to university and studied film and things, and that lined up with when we went to LA for the time that we did. But I've struggled for many years off and on with not fulfilling that long-term modern sense of masculinity of being independent at X amount of age. It's already mapped out, kind of like you were saying about career, or even in modern identity as a millennial or whatever you are from age to age. There's a time where you're supposed to be out. And we've all always contributed to our family, but I'm beginning to see more and more now, more than ever, including but not limited to a second time sharing with the platform Ashley in Africa, how important and how blessed I am and how successful I am in this season of still living with my family, of having my name on here, of contributing to this move. It's going on 4 years, us living outside of the United States. And I played a role in that. My parents didn't just take it on and then we just kind of came in a suitcase. Like, we all contributed research, spearheading and fast tracking renewal and acquisition of passports, visa applications, the medical. I went and found the things where, you had to make sure you had the correct shots and things when it was time to board the plane, to leave, and on and on and on. And so that is just simply translated into also career, where I've made a business with my family. We're LLC'd up and things like that. I never thought that at least I don't think I thought I'd do a startup, basically. But that's what we're doing here in education. The platform is YouTube or email marketing or social media stuff. Ashley and her family know all about, and it's really great. In the age, even prior to working from home, people were already doing that, maybe in the form of an influencer or a content creator or whatever the term was. It seems that I'm successful at the right time in the beginning to be doing this. And it was started by my dad and then the whole family. Again, we have two brothers back in the States planning when they would like to move, and they get to draw clearly from our experience. We're on weekly and bi-weekly calls all the time in the family chat, just updating on the properties, on the YouTube channel, on our health, on vacations that we take. We just had some family come through for a week to scout out where they'd like to move. And I'm seeing that as success. I'm seeing that as my career is being an entrepreneur and learning from Ashley in Africa and learning from other mentors and things that we do, and translating my time in film school, learning screenwriting, learning YouTube algorithms, learning content creation. I thought I was gonna stay in Hollywood. Like, we were ready to stay in Los Angeles. And then the dream turned into something else. And I'm grateful for all those experiences that I had. I worked on Insecure, HBO, Issa Rae. I worked on Blackish, Tracy Ellis Ross, and people like that. And that sense of teamwork and that sense of storytelling, that sense of controlling the narrative of people, better yet, melanated people who want to go off and do something adventuresome and make money while doing it and making new friendships and connections while doing it. All of that is like my new definition of success and career. Did I answer everything, Ashley?
Yes, so good. That was great. I see Mr. and Mrs. Bradley nodding their head. I mean, I'm so glad you touched on so many points, and it redefining what success looks like, going against the status quo. And I think a lot of, I don't know, like I'm not a millennial Black man in this time, but it feels so challenging to be that. In the US, just based on the online conversations, the pressure, the criticism. And I love that you found success in such a alternative way of thinking. And I think that's how we all really have come together, and we can relate on what we once defined as success that is being pushed pretty much and programmed into us since a very young age. If you're in like the system which I was in, you know, straight A's in school, like a physical location, going to a PWI, getting a corporate job while life was great, right? Like life wasn't bad. And we didn't, you know, I think that's a misconception. People think like, you know, either you're escaping something or because you were struggling, or, you know, you have to downgrade, and it's both wrong. Like life was great in the US, but life is even better after you kind of take this leap and decide that you want to do something different. And I don't think any of us knew exactly what it was going to look like. And so that's why it's so hard to explain. And I feel you, Daniel, you're like, you know, you definitely answered as well, because creativity expands when you're outside of an environment that keeps you so busy and keeps you so consumed with their agendas or their, you know, and I hate using these words because it's like, but they want you to think a certain way, do a certain thing, believe a certain problem is happening, even when it's not. And it's hard to have a level of creativity and, you know, be open about possibilities because you are so focused on the end goal, right? It's hard not to be. So I love that you said that, Josiah. And even though it doesn't look like what the status quo of success is, you found something, and that piece of it and doing it with your family is just, again, so powerful. And I'm so happy that you all are here now, but also we'll be sharing more of like the tactical things that you addressed during the Travel Move Do Business Tanzania online conference. But let me actually go ahead and stream that. And if you guys have any questions, be sure to go ahead and type your question in the chat. Make sure you add the word question or the letter Q so I can clearly see your question. Where are we? Here we go. Yeah, so that's streaming there. So yeah, we'll come back to your questions. And speaking of the YouTube channel, right? So we got some Awaken with Mark folks here on the platform, but if you're not familiar with the channel, please be sure to visit their channel, see what they're talking about, because this family isn't just retired, right? They're building something together, which is super powerful. You built a community of people that trust your experience, trust your expertise, and are taking action on your knowledge and your insights. And so what message are you most passionate about sharing through your content?
But that is possible. We'll all chime in, but to start off, that we say this a lot in our emails and on the channel in different ways. It's possible. You'll see, I think you touched on, you know, there are certain ways that the West, the way we grew up in America, that there are expectations of how you're supposed to experience family and success or what have you. And you think that having success and thriving and things like that isn't possible anywhere else because you're supposed to only have it in the United States, as some would have you think. But that's not true. You're able to do this thing. You're able to also build community. That's where the power of Ashley in Africa, Awaken with Mark, the Travel, Move, and Do Business virtual summit, and others, that's where that comes in, where you don't have to have a family like mine or a family like Ashley's. You can go with it. You can learn with us. You can ask us questions. You can learn from our mistakes. We talk about some of the mistakes that we made, so that you don't have to make them, just as you have, Ashley. And so that's one of the starting messages, which is you don't have to be alone, and it is possible to do this thing, because we have.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head at the end there. That's what I was gonna say. Like, you're not alone in wanting to do this move and having this idea to change your environment, like, drastically, to get a totally different life. And I love seeing the comments, other YouTubers, like Miss Ashley here, her channel, and people where it's you're not alone, because not everybody has someone like-minded who wants to take on this kind of move to change their life and to move abroad. So that's something that comes to me.
Anything else, fam?
Yeah, I guess my thing is that because I'm kind of late into coming into the YouTube era and things like that. And I have learned so much about seeing so many people that have left the States and lived all over the world. And it's not like you say families, but it's like single people. A lot of women do it too. Might be a woman with younger kids or older, or husband, wife, or just single women, single men. But a lot of people are just saying, okay, I want to make that move, and they do it. You don't have to have a whole lot of money. People think you have to be a millionaire to move, but you don't. But they just said, okay, this is what I need to do, and they did it. And some have been part of something of what we are right here, on the Travel Move Business Summit, and some have maybe just talked to other people and say, okay, what can I do? So it's like it can be done, and it is being done. So.
I think what stands out to me that I would be very passionate about is that you really have permission to be yourself, to think on your own, to define your own success, and to shift your mind fully that you can do those things. And so we help you to orchestrate that and to walk it out. So that's, I think, one of the things that I'm very passionate about, that we can serve. We like serving you, and we're blessed that we get to serve more and more people. And it's exciting when someone from Botswana says to us, thank you, you helped us move here. Somebody's done a scouting trip in El Salvador. Somebody's done a scouting trip in Mauritius. Someone's moved to Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Someone's moved to Zanzibar, on and on. And it encourages us that we're serving properly. And so we're passionate about helping you do that mind shift that's required actually to succeed in anything in life. To be quite honest, you could want to lose weight or learn to play pool. I don't know. But anyway, that's it.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not just about that move. And Ty says here he can relate, but honestly, Africa wasn't on his list. It wasn't until later that he was focused on Africa. And that was also my story. I knew I wanted to move abroad forever, but I wasn't focused on Africa. And so it boiled down to research. It boiled down to safety. It boiled down to values, right? Like the values, the desire to be in the majority. I wanted to feel what that was like, and feeling what that is like. Now I understand why these folks are acting up, because the comfort of being surrounded by people who look like you is a confidence booster and a security that is hard, is invaluable. It's hard to explain what that is like. And so there were things that were valuable to me that existed on the continent of Africa, specifically in Eastern and Southern Africa. So we do have a couple of questions I want to address. So the BB says he has this statement, which, you know, I think it's really interesting, and I would love maybe for you guys to address this question. So this person says they would consider moving to Africa. What are the safest countries? And he just doesn't trust that the US, France, Russia, China won't collude to burn Africa down to the ground. Well,
well, I mean, you can't control what others are doing. You've got to just go ahead and live your life.
Yeah.
The safer countries from a continent of Africa point of view, I know that there was a list I was looking at recently. South Africa is actually a very safe place. Mauritius is very safe. Rwanda is very strict, very safe. They were up near the top. Let's see here.
Botswana as well.
Yes, Botswana.
I think I'm looking at the maps I found. I think Malawi, maybe Libya. I think you just said Mauritius right there.
Yes,
Namibia,
Ghana. And you know, Black folk always going to Ghana, so you knew that was on there. Those are just a few.
Oh, yes, Marlene's right. Namibia.
I wasn't saying it right now.
Yeah.
So those are just a few right there. Go ahead.
yeah, just a few, but you guys didn't even mention Tanzania. Like, Tanzania is one of the safest countries.
Oh, yeah,
right.
That's right.
Sorry.
You called us out, so we're
thinking outside the box.
Yeah, we're thinking outside.
Right, of course. Like, you're not, I get it. You don't want to be biased. You don't want to be biased, but I mean, in what ways, well, what does safety look like? So for me as a mother with young children, I feel comfortable sending my young children in a car or in a bajaji or walking, you know, a 20-minute walk to the Dukaladawa or the market. And you'll see young children as young as 5, you know,
That's right.
walking to school in groups.
Walking out into the ocean too as fishermen.
Yeah,
I've seen it out at the lagoons. They'll walk out at low tide and walk out kilometers to meet their baba, their uncles, and begin the day's work out there fishing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So for tide to come back in. Yeah. Young boys.
My
doing their
friend
thing.
was inspired by, like, he was 5 years old herding like his family cattle in Dar es Salaam in the 90s, you know?
Wow.
So like it's one of the safest countries. Someone over on Instagram asked a question about, you know, communities feeling welcome. I think one of the beautiful things about all of the African countries that I visited, they let you be who you are. They mind their business and they let you be who you are. Now, that comes with a level of respect. So you respect where you are and you respect the customs, the traditions, the ways of doing things. Some places, this means dressing more modestly. Some places, this means maybe not being open with your PDA. Some places, this means not recording in public. Some places, this means not, you know, speaking a certain level of tone. Understanding the culture is really, really important. But overall, if you have a level of respect for the place that you are, 9 times out of 10, they're going to respect you as a human, because that's what you are. You're a human being. It's not even about people being Black, you know, because that's not even a thing in many countries because everybody's Black. So they welcome all cultures, right? So even to this point of being concerned about these other countries and what they're doing, I want to invite you to consider that you might have been taught things that weren't necessarily true about some of the countries that you've mentioned. You might not have been aware of some of the countries that you're committed to or you're from or you represent and the experiences that they are imposing on African countries. consider the fact that maybe what you've been taught and you've been told about a place is not true. And so you've got to experience the place yourself in order to really understand what is happening, what is really happening where you live and what is happening abroad, because I didn't know everything that I know now. And I'm still learning and I'm still unlearning a lot of things. So being aware of your experience is so important. That's why we are having the Travel, Move, Do Business conference online, because it starts with travel. It starts with visiting a place to understand and learn and experience before you decide if it's good for you. And then understanding, okay, how can I make this work for myself and my family? How can I add value to the community as an entrepreneur? Because that's how you're going to sustain yourself is being a value creator and doing something that adds value to the place in which you're traveling to look, at it for a better quality of life. Sawa? All right. Someone asked if you can share what health improvements have you noticed just from living in Zanzibar? This is a great question.
A lot, actually. Go ahead, Mom, Dad.
Losing weight. Not just for us, but others. Losing weight. I guess we keep using the word peace and just having peace of mind, everything. Because living in the States, everything's fast. At least where we are, it's just kind of poly, take your time. You don't feel the stress, so it changes a lot on your whole demeanor, on how you figure that. There are people that have never really exercised and now they're exercising, or people that weren't eating a certain way, they've cut back certain things and they're eating more fresh food. So it's like the whole thing of it just changes how you view your living. And so being here, it's like the exercise, the health in reference to how you eat has really changed, has really helped a lot.
Yeah, for me, I know. People have said in our videos, wow, you and your wife, your skin is glowing.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying this. I had to go back because I don't really watch the videos and look and say, oh, wow, okay. And when you see it not once, not twice, not 3 times, multiple times, and you realize, wow, this I'm looking better. They have so much peace. We got off the hamster wheel. You got to think in terms of a holistic approach. In other words, your whole being is affected. What you put in your mouth, what you eat, what you experience in terms of not. I remember we were in Rwanda and the police officer stopped the car. And it was he was just saying, he laughed and he said, "No, I'm just saying how you doing. You all right?" And he said, "Where are you from? America? You're not used to this, right?" Or something like that. And he was teasing me, and he was right, because a stop in the East Coast and the DMV, I've been through some things, and my sons have been through some things, and it wasn't present. These things help you to be healthier. And also the last thing I want to mention is we don't live in a system anymore that is a pharmaceutical system where health is a business. When I say health is a business, what I mean is the food you may be consuming may last longer than our food sitting on the counter or on the shelf, but that's because it's had so many things pumped into it, and therefore that causes you to need to go to the health facility to get drugs. And so you have this cycle, this circle that's going on where you're constantly needing some kind of pill or something to take care of what you've got, versus I can walk over and pick up a banana off of the tree outside. It's our neighbor's tree. Or Josiah takes the leaves off of our tree. It's a neem, Neem. And he and Daniel and Marlene and sometimes myself drink the tea. It's like this stuff is real. We can touch it, and it does. The food and the animals, like the chickens, they do not look like they're auditioning for the movie The Incredibles.
Right, all blown up.
They're not blown up.
Yeah.
They look normal. They look regular. And I think all of these things are a holistic approach, and they contribute to our health improvement.
Yes. And I wanted to piggyback on him talking about the leaves and stuff. We have to treat the neem leaves. We have found, and I know living in the States, a lot of people that may be organic or vegan or things like that. And so they may have done various supplements that are organic, but I know the pharmaceutical company frowns on that, makes it sound like that stuff doesn't really work, but it does. But here, because we can go pull something off a tree or eat a certain fruit, we are finding more and more of the fruits that maybe weren't in the States, but that are here, that are really helping with high blood pressure, that are helping with, your skin or your eyesight, or, it's really helping because Mark does moringa seeds, and that's really helping with high blood pressure. So there are things here that readily you can do that we are finding for ourselves that are helping our health in that area. And other people we know that have come here and may have been on 20 different pills for whatever reason, but now they're not on that because they're doing more of the leaves of certain trees that help them by drinking certain teas that are really helping them. So those are one aspect of what we've really found out.
Oh, tell them the whole story. So the person that Marlene was mentioning, we interviewed her daughter,
yeah.
And she talked about her 90-year-old mother was on some 20 medications, and she gradually got off of all of them here
In Zanzibar. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and she's good. There's also for your mental health and blood pressure, things aren't racialized like they are in the United States, because we're Black American, African American, and granted we are removed from the continent some centuries, but everyone there's not a red carpet rolled out and things like that. We all in our own way had to be disabused of that fantasy. But it's to your point, Ashley, earlier when you said you just get to be a human being. So no one is weaponizing your melanin, your kinky hair, your afro features and things, but they're also not really paying that much attention to them. It all depends on what culture you might be in. There are 54 African nations, as you well know, but you do get to just blend in after a time by getting to know your local neighbors mixed with maybe one or two expat friends or communities, and you gradually get to make it yours, especially if you're Black or African American choosing to live in an African nation. And that your melanin and your Afro culture and features no longer being weaponized, but embraced, you just being who you are, that does a lot for your blood pressure and your mental health, we found.
I think one of the things that people don't realize is when I say holistic, there are so many different slices to the pie that contribute to, in this case, the person asked about health. For example, in the United States, it's different than here on the continent, especially in East Africa, but pretty much other places also. In the United States, we are very transactional. And I think that goes to the capitalist society. Anyway, here, I believe the demeanor is more relational. What does that have to do with health? Well, in this particular case, when you're saying to someone, Habari's Asabui, good morning, how are you? What's the news? They're actually asking you, how are you? And what's the news? And it's not a check the box with your Starbucks latte in your hand. I'm good. You keep on walking. No, they're waiting to know. They're asking, how's your family, Mark? How's your wife? How's your sons? Oh, I saw Daniel the other day. They're doing that kind of stuff. Those are characteristics of what they would call blue zones. Right. Blue zones are where people live 100 years and stuff like that. I'm not claiming that that's going on here, but what I'm saying is one of the strong factors is community, not in the sense that you're building a house together. That's cool. But I'm saying, no, just interacting with each other contributes to your overall well-being and health.
So good. I'm so happy because healthcare is one of those questions people ask, well, what about the healthcare? And I was having this conversation with someone actually today here in South Africa, in Cape Town. And she is an accountant. She's a really high performing accountant. She's white South African. But we were talking about my journey to South Africa, and I reference this only her skin color because she didn't really understand the dynamic of racism, because while she lives in South Africa, she's the minority in this country, and so she couldn't really understand what that was like for me, because racism is illegal here in South Africa. While there are racial dynamics that absolutely exist and are present, we were having the conversation about how when I was living in the US, I was on anxiety medication. And
Yes.
I talked about my career and my lifestyle. And ultimately, it was the decision to live a life in alignment with my values that allowed me to come off of those medicines, right? She is still very high performing. She's a mom as well, but she, shared with me that she was taking these medications. And so, follow doctor's orders, do what feels best for you. But I realized that as long as I was living a life out of alignment with my values, I would never have peace. I would continue to be anxious. I would continue to have moments of deep depression. And I'm not saying, I think there are healthy levels of anxiety and depression and these things, grief. These things happen, of course. Some of these things I think we'll talk a little bit more about at the conference. But when you decide that, okay, I want to live in alignment with my values, if this place isn't a place that I value and what they do, I value, I appreciate, I stand behind, you're innately going to have high levels of stress and anxiety. You're innately going to pick up things that are, can be addictive because you're constantly coping to be in that environment, right? And so I love that we were given so many different references to this question, because health is everything. Without your health, I think when you have a health issue, that is the one issue that you have. You can have issues with everything else, but when health becomes your concern, it is the only concern that you have in order to get past it to the next step. And so health is everything. And it's something that is priceless, that cannot be measured when you get into an environment where you can have access to natural medicines, herbal remedies, nature, your freedom, your lifestyle. These are things that just are priceless. They're priceless. They're priceless. So thank you for that question. Ty, thank you for asking that question. If you're over on Instagram, we definitely want to have you at the Travel Move Do Business Conference. Comment Tanzania in the chat to get that link sent to you. If you're over here on YouTube, you see it scrolling below. It's also going to be in the description and in the pinned comments for the replay. But Bradley family, we're closing out on time, but I want to ask you, why should people attend the Travel Move Do Business Tanzania conference? What's your reasoning? What's your advice, and why should people attend and learn from you?
You get your questions answered, just like people are doing dialogue here on Instagram and YouTube and whatnot. You can hear the stories, and then in real time, you can ask questions. By the way, we learned a lot last year as well from the guests, and we're going to learn even more this year. So we're all, even though we've been invited to speak, thank you so much, we also are like, what else can we learn about Tanzania while we're here? And that can also give us ideas for greater travel. It's focused on Tanzania, But let's face it, when you get an answer for one thing, it can oftentimes trickle into other things that can improve your life. So that's one really great reason is community and getting questions answered in real time by people living it, not some survey or, well, I heard that they don't like us in Africa. No, you're hearing from people, young and old, retired, business, whatever the case, who have lived the experience of travel, having moved in, some even doing business in Africa, whether it's with locals or even freelance work like Daniel and I. We're going to learn things about what is possible again here in Tanzania to couple with the freelance work that we do with the states and with other countries. So that's one reason.
Yeah, I would add to that. Also, you're moving into a different environment with like-minded individuals who are serious like you, and you'll get to hear questions you might not have thought to ask yourself, surrounded by those individuals or groups of people. It's a huge opportunity you should definitely take advantage of.
Yeah.
Being part of a community, that's something that they've said often, but the deal is, it's the same reason why people go to Pilates classes or other group type activities. You now have a cohort that you're running along with. And they say if you want to get somewhere fast from a African point of view, go by yourself. But if you want to get somewhere deep and really understand and grasp it, go with someone. And so your ability to travel with someone is very critical.
Yes, yes. And being a part of this, it helps you to know, well, first and foremost, to invest in yourself. Because you're going to, like all the things that they've said, you're going to hear things that you're like, oh, I'm not the only one that has thought that way. Oh, I agree with that too. So you're going to find a lot of, like you said, like-minded people and questions and things that people are going to say. And so preferably, it will be very, very, very beneficial for you to do that because, like I say, you're doing this to invest in yourself. So.
Yeah. Also, organization, things will be highlighted. We've held our own events, as you know, Ashley, and we've had people say, man, if I hadn't attended your event, I wouldn't have known this. I wouldn't even thinking about that. That happened to us last year with your conference, and I know it's going to happen again this year, where you come and hear from people who literally inspire another way of thinking for how to organize or get started to move or do business in another country. In this case, Tanzania, because you can't think of everything. And it's also, you're allowed to go at your own pace. You and the panelists don't rush anyone. You're not saying, oh, you better hurry up. It's a community where you can organize and begin or continue your plan to move abroad. And this is a great platform, an event to get ideas, to keep that momentum going.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I'm so happy that you feel that way. I'm so glad you all, found value in it, just being a part of the conference and then contributing. And so you all are going to talk about a little bit more about the process of retirement, building a business, right? Like building a business abroad, the real estate opportunities, specifically visas and how it looks like maintaining your long-term residency, because we haven't gotten a chance to go through all of that, but you're going to address that. And then you'll also be sharing, I think during the diaspora exchange. So that's going to be like a roundtable of multiple families, the Bradley family, the Best family, the Fords. Then we're going to have Ashley as well. And even like my little ones sharing about their school experience. So you're going to get a lot of different perspectives. You won't have to take my word for it. You won't have to take just the Bradley's word for it, but you're going to get a very dynamic perspective from different people that have done it, that are doing it, that are continuing to do it, because this is an ongoing process. Things are changing. Even if, we're going to have my attorney, April Ernest from the Novus Law Group, talking about long-term residencies, business development requirements, because things are changing. So like how it was for us 3, 4, 5 years ago, they are changing the way they are running these systems. I think just last week or this week, Monday, Tanzania changed the requirements to travel into the country, right? Where you now have to purchase additional insurance, right? This happened in Zanzibar last year. They raised an enormous amount of funding for infrastructure improvement. So they're implementing that in mainland. So costs are rising. Access is becoming a little bit more intentional. Like you've got to make a plan and do so. You don't have to do it alone, right? Like that's the best part is I think for many of us, we had some resources online, but not in the way that we have them now and not in the way that we're serving the community now. So those are just a couple of things that you all can expect from the Travel Move Do Business online conference. But the Bradley family, how can others follow your journey and what's going on? How can they find you?
You can find us right here on YouTube. Ashley may have linked us maybe in the description, or we've left some comments on the video. And so you can click right on us, Awaken with Mark, Move Abroad. There we continuously document some tourism, things with Tanzania, organizational and personal development tips that helped us, just go step by step to move abroad. You can also find our Move Abroad Masterclass there where we go more in depth on that channel. We go more in depth from the very beginning up to now and beyond. And we just continue to expand ways that can help you, whether you're moving to an African nation or moving anywhere. We try to keep things inspirational, organizational, and I forgot what else I was gonna say. Well, we just try to keep it simple for you. So yeah, you can find us right here on YouTube, and we have additional links right in there. But this is where we spend most of our time, on YouTube. We want to make moving abroad easier for you.
Awesome. And you're doing such a fantastic job. It's always a pleasure getting to share time with you all. And thank you again for adding so much value to our community as a whole. And I can't wait to see y'all next weekend.
All right.
Awesome. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. If you found value in this conversation, be sure to like this video. I wasn't even checking the likes. Like the video, share the video with someone who finds value in it, and join us next week, the 19th through the 20th of July, online for the Travel Move Do Business online conference. Until the next video, we'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye. Are we ending? End.